Hello everybody, my name is Abby Hopkins and today I will be talking about one of the most influential parts of my life to date. As you are growing up, you are shaped by the things around you, as well as what happens to you directly. School, work, family, friends, and even doctor's appointments. I got diagnosed with a serious disease that has changed my life whether I wanted it to or not. My life was transformed after a trip to the doctor's office, and I will never be that person again. The best way I can put it is I was a can of red Play-Doh. A blue can decides to shove its way into mine, causing me to become purple. Changed forever. Destroying my pure red shade and making me forget life when I was like that, when I was red. The most influential parts of your life don't have to be this picture-perfect version where you don't get to see the negative. The biggest moments are the hardest to understand and the toughest to get through. With that, a glimpse into life before, during, and after, the biggest thing I've ever had to come to terms with, and how I grew from the experience as a whole. The first thing I would like to start on would be when I was 16 years old. I found myself at the doctor's office basically at a wit's end with nowhere else to turn. I felt more dehydrated than normal and noticed that if I don't eat under a strict schedule, I'll get these things like I used to call the shakes, or my hand would shake and I would get dizzy and hot. All of a sudden it felt like the room's temperature had changed on me. And even sometimes it would feel like I would be knocked around so much that I would spin like a cartoon character from the Looney Tunes. The whole idea that something could be seriously wrong with me was so far from my grasp, I couldn't even see it. I swallowed my pride and marched into the doctor's, I tell you, like I have never done before. Up to this moment, I wouldn't even speak up for myself at the doctor's appointments. I would do what any normal teenager would do and look at my mom expecting her to say something for me. But just hearing what that doctor had to say, it took my whole world and spun it around. It felt like I was in a padded room with just my thoughts and the words she just said to me shoved down my throat. She said, "You have diabetic ketoacidosis," which is a technical term for you're type 1 diabetic, and if you don't take care of this, you will land yourself in the hospital. So, mine was a little twisted. I've heard this before, but never thought it could have been me. My dad grew up as a type 2 diabetic, and I saw what this visually did to him, and our shared illness also did to him. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which dealt with our joints. Suddenly, I saw more of myself thrown outside of my body, as well as me trying to focus on what my new routine was going to be from here on out. 4 shots a day, 4 finger pricks a day, and the biggest red flag that I couldn't believe. I am stuck with this for the rest of my life. Nothing can change it, only lessen the amount of bodily harm that happens to me. Finally, I had to understand my diagnosis and grow from it. My diagnosis was something that I felt like was out of the blue completely, but I had to stand up and just be an overall leader for myself. From that moment, I had to change my diet and many of my other habits. It's learned when you become a diabetic in the community that this feels like 100 miles of craziness. You are thrown into this new life and you won't understand it at first. Looking back, 4 shots and 4 finger pricks a day to check my blood sugar wasn't even that bad. It morphed, sadly, into what the people in the diabetic community call diagnosis denial. I found myself believing that it was not really happening, and I completely stopped taking all my shots and stuff and stopped checking my blood sugar in front of people. But soon on, I realized, after all the really bad doctor's appointments, that what I was doing to myself was harmful. So I stood up for myself and started picking up the pace, watching what I do and watching what I take. I have never became more aware until that moment, and I never looked back. I ended up getting 2 devices that completely changed my life for the better, taking the shots and the pricks completely out of my life. My life was ever changing because I noticed I wasn't feeling well one day, and it morphed into me being diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic. My life before was something I could never see myself going back to after all of these years being a diabetic. With all the shots and the medications and the doctor's appointments, and even the phone tag with insurance, some days this diagnosis doesn't feel worth it. But I sit down and I breathe. I realize that this is everything I ever needed. I needed something that's going to come into my life and shake it around like I was a brand new snow globe being used for the first time. If something like a diagnosis can affect everything you do like mine does, don't take it lightly. Learn from what you did in the past and become a better person because of it. Thank you.